Hey, this is Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys, and I love the Grandstanders! Take it away, kid!
Welcome to another edition of the Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman, and I'm joined by my usual cohorts, the Professor, Russ Stevens, and JP's first son, Tim Hoey. Well, we have a special guest sitting in the grandstand tonight. It's the annual show.
That's
and
right.
It's our
We look forward to it. It's our favorite
fifth year
one.
anniversary. The Honorable Governor Michael Dukakis. It is my pleasure to welcome him.
Great to be
Standing
back.
up.
Great to be back.
Thank you for being
Great
here.
to be back.
All right, so the Red Sox. First of all, we have to talk with the governor. He comes every summer, so we do have to mention that we did win a World Series, and that
And
the
more
fourth.
than one. I mean, look, for those of us who, my first game was in 1938.
Are you kidding me?
Age of 4.5. Haven't I told you that story?
No.
Nope.
And, my brother, who was 3 years older than I was, we were swinging a bat when we were 3. Jim Britt was the guy that was the announcer of the Red Sox.
Jim Britt.
Jim Britt.
Yeah.
You
Just
guys-
radio.
Never heard of
Just
it.
radio,
Yeah,
no
right.
TV. Okay. And my dear mother, who was an unusual woman, I mean, she'd come over from Greece when she was 9. She was the first Greek girl ever to go away to college unescorted in the history of the United States. I mean, Greek immigrant girls did not go
Right.
off to Bates College on their own.
No, they did not.
And it was all because of an elementary school principal in Haverhill, Massachusetts. Became almost a second father to her.
Right.
If you want to know where I got the middle name Stanley, which is not exactly a Greek name,
No.
it was for Stanley Gray, that elementary school principal.
Is
That's
that right?
great.
So off she went. Phi Beta Kappa in 1925. I mean, she was a very bright woman. But she didn't know a baseball bat from a broom handle.
Yeah, right.
She had no idea what her kids were doing out there.
Yeah.
At the age of 3, 4, Sandlot stuff, which I regret these days, folks. There's not a lot of the Sandlot stuff. We
No.
learn leadership lessons and
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
All the baseball fields are empty when you fly over
Organizing.
them. Yeah.
Pickup games,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Day after day
Yeah.
after day. Anyway, we finally drove in us. Can't we go to the? And we were living in one of the brick two families at the corner of Boylston and Clark Road, which was just up. I mean, it was a bus ride, quick bus ride down to Fenway,
Sure,
right?
yeah. Right.
So we drove her nuts. And can we go? Can we go? And finally, she agreed to go and take us. So we went down to Fenway.
Oh, so she went with you.
Yeah, she went with us.
Yeah.
And, you can imagine, my brother was 7, I was 4, and we had a fabulous time. It was the first time at Fenway.
What year was that?
Huh?
What year?
1938.
So-
Lefty Grove was pitching
No
that
kidding.
game.
And you saw
Rick
William,
Farrell was catching.
was
Jimmy,
Williams in the league?
No, he came
one
up
year
the
before,
following year.
right? Yeah.
Jimmy Fox was on first. Dorr had just come up.
Wow.
Joe Cronin at shortstop. Jim Tabor at third.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doc Kramer in center. Joe Vosmick in left.
Oh my God!
Not that
Did
you remember.
And when I was governor, I was doing a little kind of between the innings piece
Yeah.
on radio.
Yeah. Yeah.
And who was it at the time?
Ned Martin, or was it later than that?
No, it wasn't Ned.
Ken Coleman.
Ken Coleman,
Ken Coleman.
said, "Do you remember who played? Who were playing the game?" I said, "Yeah, Grove was pitching, Farrell was catching, Fox on first, Dorr on second, but I can't remember the right fielder." I must have got 20 letters at the State House telling me it was Ben Chapman, who,
No
as
kidding.
we all know, was a racist to the core
Oh, was that
from
right?
Alabama. Oh,
That's why.
terrible,
That's why
right?
you blocked him out.
terrible. No, I didn't know this.
That's not the guy who got beaned and died, is it?
No,
No.
no.
No,
He
okay.
subsequently managed in the minor leagues, but absolutely a racist. He was the right fielder.
Your memory is remarkable. Do you know what team they played?
No, I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
I do remember as an 8th grader at the Baker School, and remember in those days there was no little league. We had 6th, 7th, and 8th grade leagues. Every elementary school had a 6th grade team, a 7th grade team. I caught for the 7th grade team in the 4th grade because I was the only guy in the place that could catch a swinging strike. I think I told you this.
Yeah.
Anyway, we all decided at the last day of school, the 8th grade baseball team, this was when I was an 8th grader, would go down to Fenway. And it was Yankees-Red Sox.
Oh, big time.
The Yankees won 14-1.
Oh, no.
And scored 13 runs in 1 inning, and I still remember that yellow 13.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So what year would that have been?
45.
So, but that would have
So
been.
that was
That would have
way-
been.
And Boo Ferris was pitching. So
Yeah,
we
top of
figured,
everything else, you had it in the
hey,
bag.
we're going to see Ferris.
And then Ted Williams was in the picture at that point. Yeah.
Anyway, so Ferris pitched.
We thought
And lost 14-1.
That's how we. By the way, that's how we felt that Sunday night against the Yankees when Chris Sale was pitching 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
When everything was coming up roses for us. We won 3 straight, and Sale goes out there and can't
do
get
it.
through 4.
So is this the best Red Sox team you've ever seen, the 2018 version?
Well, it was one of the best. I mean, how do you measure all of this?
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, I think the season was the best season. we've
Yeah, it
ever
was
had.
crazy.
I mean, how they did what they did was amazing. So you tell me, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, they didn't return. They returned everybody, and you have to bring
that a
in
bit-
different guys.
Well,
I
not
think, at
Kimball
times.
that didn't return.
But certain guys you have to bring in. I think you have to bring in some new blood.
Was that a mistake?
I think
I think
you need
so.
a closer.
I think so. You know,
Yeah.
maybe he wasn't, at his peak, but he was still a pretty impressive.
You need a guy who's
closer.
psychologically set up to come
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
and shut the door.
yeah, exactly.
You had a guy in the 8th inning too.
And I think
We had neither.
Well, but I think when he came in, the opposing teams almost shut down.
They
You know.
you could see the
First
wing
he
go
was-
out.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah.
Interesting pitcher, pretty intimidating. You never knew where the ball was going.
You know what I
They're already
noticed?
into the post game meal. Yeah,
What-
right.
you
If you're
sit behind the
Kansas
plate.
City, right?
When Kimball came in, the ball sounded different hitting the catcher's mitt than whoever was before him. He seemed to have more, like a lot of velocity.
And that whole kind of looking in, and,
Yeah.
the
hang in the
bending
arm,
over.
right,
and-
He was intimidating.
Well,
He was
the thing is,
intimidating.
when
Yeah.
you have a closer, then it puts everyone in their proper position in the bullpen. So everyone kind of knows. And this, I might go in
Yeah.
the 6th, I might go in the 7th, in the 8th.
There's only one guy going in the
and there's
ninth.
only one guy going in the 9th.
Yeah,
But
I
to-
thought it was a mistake.
But to Scott's point, when you don't bring new energy into it, I just think they lingered on that World Series a lot longer than I would have expected them to. It seemed to keep coming up.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got a guy now at third base. Who would have believed
was
it?
an incredible player, yeah.
Just
You
been
love watching him
incredible.
play?
Yeah. I mean, he's 23 or something.
And he
right?
gets pissed off when he makes an out.
Oh, yeah.
I love
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I heard a legitimate argument the other day saying he might be the best young player, under 24-year-old player that we've had since Fred Lynn.
But 3 years ago, would you have thought that he was?
No.
Remember, he
was
had
having his
fielding
difficulties.
Right,
problems.
he
and
had
this,
that
and the other
baby
thing.
fat
On
on him. It
defense.
didn't look
Yeah.
like he
He
knew
was
what he
horrible.
was doing.
Yeah.
because
And-
we had Wade Boggs, but we haven't had a great history of third baseman, right? I mean, Rico was a shortstop first, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, there's right. I mean,
Butch Hobson.
What's
Butch
the best
Hobson.
third baseman
Yeah.
of your generation? Would you say for the Red Sox? It's tough to even think of one, right?
Malzone played third, right?
Was Malzone? Yeah, well, you're right. But
Rico's the only one that comes
was
to
he a
mind.
nice player? I mean, was he a star, or was he just a nice player?
Malzone?
Malzone, yeah.
He was good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call him an A+, but I mean, he was a
Right.
so
there's
solid
a
B+
chance.
guy.
He's in the running to be, if he continues this trajectory, he's in the running to be the best third baseman they've ever had.
Right. Think about that. Right.
And they've got a great shortstop.
Right.
Yeah.
A guy at second who these days who I kind of like. I mean, he's a solid guy.
And Chavis.
Well, Chavis or
Or Hernandez or any of
Are
those
you
guys.
talking about
Right.
or
Pedroia?
Holt. I mean, I like
Holt,
Holt.
yeah.
He's a good ball player.
Who are you
Yeah.
referring to, Governor?
Huh?
At second.
Holt.
Holt. Yeah, but Dustin Pedroia is gone. That's it.
Huh?
He had some
surgery
surgery today that they basically give people who have
Yeah.
knee replacements.
And went well, though he's rehabbing now.
Who's that? Who is this?
Dustin
Dustin
Pedroia.
Pedroia.
Oh yeah, no, I think Dustin's.
yeah, right. It's time
Sad.
for
But you know what you're doing, Governor, is you're going around and saying strong at third, strong at short, decent at second, strong at first. You go to the outfield, left, center,
The
right.
best. Look, the outfield is the best outfield in baseball. I mean, how do you beat these guys?
Unbelievable.
And that guy in center field is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we've got results.
Unfortunately,
right?
not at the plate, though.
Huh?
Not at the plate.
No, but he's slow and he kind of gets into it. But he's he gets his hits, particularly in the middle of the season.
But a lot of the players, like Russ has said, have met expectations, have gone beyond it this season, but it's because of the starting pitching.
pitchers.
Yeah, no,
That's
it's
the
the
answer to
pitching,
the
it's the
question.
pitching.
Yeah.
And then, you mentioned that great lineup when you went to your first game.
Yeah.
But you didn't mention, except one pitcher, the pitching. Well, clearly, obviously, the pitching was
For the
poor
life
at
of me, I
that
can't,
time,
except
right?
for Lefty Grove, who I saw. I can't even remember who the pitchers were.
So who's to blame there? It has to be Dombrowski, right?
I don't know. You blame Dombrowski. What's happened to the pitchers?
Right. These
They
guys,
did-
I don't. I mean, you can't blame Dombrowski for Sale, for Price, for Porcello, for Erod's pitched well. They haven't performed.
It's everybody after them. It's. I mean, the starting pitching hasn't pitched well.
No.
And the bullpen has completely failed.
So is the season over,
That's.
Governor?
I don't see how you come back from this.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you look at the
Well, we-
wild card, is
well,
kind of a.
Scotty, we were talking about all the money we're going to save on playoff tickets. Though.
yeah, right.
We won't get that bill.
You can't. We're season ticket holders. You cannot give these seats away anymore.
Really?
You give
It's
them
rough.
the clients, and they become offended.
They say, don't you have any, movie tickets instead? They say,
So,
Well, Kitty and I are going Friday night.
oh, great.
Look, when it's good
Against
weather,
the Angels.
Yeah.
So you get to see Mike Trout.
Yeah.
That's fun.
when it's good weather, it's a
Remember Mike
wonderful
Kelly?
thing to do.
What's that?
It was Kelly with the Dodgers.
No, Kelly's with the Dodgers.
Kelly's, yeah,
Right,
Dodgers.
right.
Milton's own Rich Hill, is he healthy? Is he
Yeah,
pitching?
what about
Yeah,
Hill?
he's-
I live in Milton, so I know the Hill family.
What about Hill?
Is he healthy right now?
Why did
He's
he get
coming
him?
back.
He's not healthy.
No.
But he said that he's a free agent this year. That because he lives in Milton.
He
still.
lives in Milton. He
He'd
lives
to-
right
he'd
down
like
the
to come
street
back
from
to
me.
the Red Sox.
Get him.
Yeah, right.
No
Bring
kidding.
him back.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know they didn't have this in your day. So Major League Baseball will have on pace 600 more home runs this year than last year, the year they broke a record. Do you like the whole home runs every other batter, it seems?
If we hit him.
But do you like
But
the
it's the
pace?
other side that keeps hitting
Yeah,
them these
that
days.
is for
you
sure.
know?
But do you like the pace of the game?
Look, if you go to a baseball game, you ought to plan to settle in for a while. I mean, this speed it up and so on and so forth. I mean,
But 4.5
I knew he was
hours.
going to answer that.
4.5 hours, Governor.
if you want speed, go someplace else.
But 4.5
All
hours.
right,
That's
so Friday, I'm coming to the game. I'm going to look for Governor Dukakis and Kitty
We're not
Dukakis.
leaving early.
All right.
I don't think.
No, I think
Governor. 4.5 hours. Though.
I love the ballpark. I
It's-
love the experience.
Yeah. They've done a
I'm
nice
proud
job.
of the fact that we saved that thing before we came very close to.
how close was it? The South Boston
Very close.
was the
No.
closest.
What happened was that, and it was short. Haven't I told you guys?
You've
No,
never talked
I
about
wanna
this.
hear this
Yeah,
story.
I know. You've never spoken about this.
I teach at UCLA in the wintertime. So difficult though it is, we drag ourselves. out.
Difficult though it is.
And we're both
Drag
New
yourself away
Englanders,
from the
but I'm
winter.
married to the best-looking Medicare recipient in America, who for some reason prefers winter in Southern California.
Imagine that.
I don't
wonder
get it.
why.
And our girls are in Denver and San Francisco, so it gives us a chance to
Even
spend
closer.
winter
Very
with them.
close, yeah.
And their kids now can visit us and come as they want to, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this will be our 25th winter quarter at UCLA.
Wow.
You know.
That's worthy
That's
to
Do you have an extra room out there?
Yeah,
for,
that's incredible.
You guys all come out.
We'll take you up on it. Careful what you offer.
Now,
So-
why did I get started?
You started on the Fenway Park.
Saving Fenway Park. or
Okay,
moving.
okay. So one of the things that I've done for years is to go down to San Diego and speak to the San Diego City Club. Because of a guy named George Mitrovich. Have you guys met Mitrovich?
I know
Who's
the
the
name.
founder of the Great Fenway Writing Series.
Yes.
And so
Oh,
forth.
right,
Very
yeah.
interesting.
Very nice
Just
guy.
Just passed away the other
Just
day,
passed
right?
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he
Oh,
just
I didn't
passed
know.
Very
away the
close
other
friend.
day. Yeah,
And he would bring me down and call it the Dukakis' State of the Union address to the San Diego City Club.
sure.
And one of those talks was on the front lawn of Larry Lucchino's modest cottage in La Jolla, overlooking the Pacific Ocean,
Oh, yeah,
I'm sure
very
modest
modest.
when he was
cottage.
running the Padres and building that stadium.
Yeah.
With a lot of help, by the way, from Mitrovich and the City Club. And it was the first time I had met Larry. And at that time, I think it was about 3 years before the acquisition and his being named president, there wasn't the slightest possibility, we talked about Lucchino coming to Boston.
So this is late 90s?
Yeah. It was about 3 years before
Yeah.
Right.
the acquisition by the new owners. And we apparently had a conversation. We just met for the first time. And we talked a little bit, and he was in the process of building the new Padres Stadium. And I said, this situation in Boston is terrible. I said, can you imagine anybody who favors tearing down Fenway Park and building a phony version of the real thing for $850 million ought to be indicted.
You said that. Yeah. Very nice.
Now, I completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
3 years later, all of a sudden, we got a new ownership group, and Larry Lucchino is going to be the chief executive.
Right.
So I called him up. I talked to Mitrovic and got his number, and I called him up, and I said, just want to say, hi, welcome. If we could do anything, he was concerned about where to live and where his kids would go to school. I said, you want to live in Brookline? It's 5 minutes from Fenway Park.
There you
and it's
go.
got a great school system.
Fly in the
And
colors.
he did.
Yep.
In fact, they all started
Yeah.
buying houses in Brookline.
At the right time, right?
Yeah.
Lucchino was in the Sargent Estates, I believe. right?
Yeah, and Tito bought a house, and his kids went to the Runkle School. Anyway, and in point of fact, that happened. But 3 years later, bingo. Lucchino is now the president of the Red Sox.
Right.
So I called him up. Wonderful, congratulations. Talked about the schools, and then I said, by the way, I said, I hope you'll take a good look at this tear-down thing, because I think it's terrible. He said, don't you remember what you said to me about Fenway?
You told me
I
I'd
said,
be indicted.
No. I said, no. I said, did we talk about Fenway? He said, yeah. He said, you said if anybody favored tearing down Fenway, they had to be criminally indicted. And I said, well, I hope you take it. He said, don't worry, we will. Because remember, he was the guy that brought Janet Marie Smith
I was going to ask you about Janet Marie
Right.
Smith.
into
you
the
had-
Baltimore situation.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And sure enough, to his everlasting credit, and to the rest of them, Tom Werner and the rest of them.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, Werner, whether you guys remember this, Werner said, how did he put it? He said something like, Fenway, how do you describe it? Fenway wasn't a historic treasure or something. You don't mess with Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Isn't that a great
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very fitting.
My rebuttal to that is they've never sat in my seats in right field that are about this wide. All right?
Well, Bob Ryan complained about the width of the seats.
That's ridiculous.
And I said to him when I saw him, I said, I fit very comfortably in this.
Yeah, of course you do.
I said,
I have to go on a diet before baseball season. Just to fit in the seats.
I said to him, I'm not sure, Bob. The problem is the seats.
We've had Bob on the show. Yeah.
Governor, when I sit in my seat, if I bring a portly gentleman like myself, one has to lean forward and one has to lean back.
That's true.
We cannot coexist.
I sit next to him. I'm the one
us-
leaning forward.
Yeah, thank God, Russell.
I wouldn't call myself skinny, but, I've been 160 since I left Baltimore College.
Yeah, you're
that
doing
right?
all right for yourself.
I got
So,
there, I was 142. Played a lot of ball while I was there.
Yeah.
If you're going to be
Bulked up to 160.
You're
if you're gonna-
middleweight.
if you're going to play
Yeah.
catcher, you got to bulk up, right?
And I've told you, I caught for the
Yes,
for the
you've
Reds,
gotta-
for the Democrats in
Yeah.
the annual.
Oh, I love that.
Where did you bat in the lineup when in Brookline
I
High?
don't-
Do you remember?
No,
where
I didn't.
you-
I only
what-
played.
what-
I only played freshman baseball, and I decided to play tennis.
Tennis.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right.
And I became. I told you guys about
The
running the marathon.
marathons.
and then-
It's my favorite story when Mrs. Dukakis
Yeah,
gave you a
that's
glass
right,
of
yeah.
water.
What I haven't. I told you that story about
Yes,
Kitty.
she was
That's
out there
one of our
giving you a glass
favorites.
of water.
Imagine
It's-
running into the Brighams
I
and
love
grabbing
that.
a cup of water for a future husband.
It was meant to be.
I know,
It was
right?
absolutely
Can
meant
you
to be.
imagine?
So you must have been deeply involved in the old Boston Garden and the ownership wanting to build a new facility there as well.
And
right?
and I was governor. Ray Flynn was mayor, and for $25 million, we could have completely modernized the old Boston Garden.
Is that it?
Air conditioned it, the
Really?
whole thing, and retained what I
Would have
thought
been amazing.
I love that place.
great
Wasn't that
place.
amazing?
Closer to the floor of the rink than any other
Oh,
place.
it's not even close.
Right on those first
25
balcony
million
seats.
bucks. And I
Is that
talked to
right?
Ray about it. And, he was a great athlete and all that kind of
Sure.
stuff. And he said, no, we had gotta have a modern place. Yeah, we got to.
There wasn't a
Just
better
generic.
place to
We
watch
got an end
hockey
card.
than the
Yeah.
first row
I mean,
balcony
can you imagine
at the old
25
Garden.
million
That's
bucks?
wow.
25 million
Is
bucks.
that when the Jacobs owned it? Did the
Yeah.
Jacobs own it?
Jacobs
at that
did the
time?
whole deal, yeah.
Yeah, but $25 million would have completely restored
Luxury
economy.
boxes and everything.
Oh, well, yeah. 25, and I loved that place.
I
Yeah.
loved it
You
too.
just said the first balcony
I mean,
seat.
Oh,
Yeah.
go
the
on.
I think,
best
did you
seat in
guys
the
ever go
world.
to the Tech Tourney? Is that
No, that's a little before our time.
That
I
was
think.
before your time.
The what tourney?
The Tech
The Tech
Tech
Tourney was the
Tourney. That
old
was the
state
high
basketball
school basketball.
championship.
to the
Oh, okay.
shootout,
Oh, right.
but
Oh,
not the
okay.
Tech Tourney.
No, I'm not.
And the track meets. The BAA was.
I
They were going.
And the hockey tournaments were tremendous there too.
But what about the BA? The annual BAA indoor
Track meet.
They were
meet?
Yeah.
Did you guys?
I
ever
No, it was a
go?
little before our
Where they have it
time.
in the Reggie Lewis Center now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must be very old.
Well, the Tech Tourney just predates us, I believe.
The afternoon of the BAA meet was the statewide indoor track meet.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
And they set up the whole track.
And they set up the
inside.
whole thing, of course, they used it in the
Sure,
evening.
yeah.
I think it was an 11-lap track.
No
as I
kidding.
recall. Yeah, for the mile.
11 maps. You can
And-
lose track easily.
Yeah,
on that
right.
one.
And
Yeah, right. That's exactly
and
right. Yeah.
many of us were track enthusiasts and
Yeah.
stuff. You know, I ended up running cross country and that kind of thing. And it was great. But my first Celtics game was not at the Garden. It was the Boston Arena.
Really?
Yeah. About
Great
five-
place to watch a game there too.
About
It's like a-
5,000.
It's like a miniature
5
Boston Garden.
5,000 seats.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, exactly.
And Ed Sadowski. Does that name anything to you?
No.
Gee, you guys are so young.
Not that one.
Sadowski was one of the stars, had a hook shot.
So what is this, early 50s?
Yeah, when they first started.
Yeah. Right.
The Bruins played at the Northeastern too.
And they didn't sell out, right? Back then they didn't. No, they didn't do
no.
that.
The
And
Bruins,
and
the
he-
Bruins played there too.
So what happened?
Oh, they did?
Oh yeah.
Well, okay, we all know what's happened to professional basketball and hockey and so on and so forth. I'm governor, and the arena was in such bad shape that the state took it over and actually owned it.
Was that right?
And, you know, it was
Smelled like a urinal.
Huh? Yeah, and it was kind of a patronage thing and all kinds of folks. So on and so forth. Ken Ryder was the president of Northeastern at the time. Mm-hmm. And he came to me and he said, if you'll give us the arena for $1 because we were losing money, you know, the state was costing the state,
Right.
we'll completely modernize it and we'll make it available for schoolboy hockey to the Boston high schools. Now, I don't know whether the Boston high schools play hockey anymore, do they?
They don't play the tournament there anymore. They go up to the Songus Arena for
Yeah,
like
but-
the Super 8 and things like
do
that.
the Boston high schools have hockey teams?
Some, oh yeah, some of them
Do
do,
they?
and some of them
Anyway.
Latin school used. I remember watching Latin school before it was renovated. Latin school plays Southie. Jack O'Callahan, the Olympic hockey
Right,
player,
right.
and a guy named Kevin Coughlin, who they called God Coughlin back then, played for the city championship, and that was when the
And was
arena
he
smelled
going-
like a
he-
urinal.
and he
That's
was-
what I remember going
He was
in.
going to Latin?
Jack O'Callahan went to Latin.
Yeah,
He then went
yeah.
on to play at BU and won the national championship there.
Oh, that I
and then
remember.
played on the gold medal hockey team
The
in
1980 team.
1980 Olympics.
Yeah, yeah,
Charlestown kid.
yeah. But, so we made the deal, and Northeastern took it over and completely modernized it.
That is the
didn't know
best
that.
stadium to watch a hockey game in
Yeah,
the country.
yeah.
Is that right?
First row balcony at Northeastern. It's like a mini Boston Garden. You are literally on top of the ice.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
Fabulous
and,
arena.
And I remember a basketball clinic that we all went to that was featured Adolph Rupp
No kidding.
as the coach.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Okay.
and the demonstration team was the Somerville basketball team.
No
Because in those
kidding.
days, Somerville had the best high school basketball,
Ronnie
Yeah,
Perry.
right.
Ronnie Perry.
including Ronnie Perry.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at
Senior.
Timmy.
So
Ronnie
people
Perry
are kind of milling around
Senior,
as the
yeah.
thing is beginning. And Perry goes out, in those days, two-handed set shots, right? He goes out at about 45 feet and squeezes off about 25 of them. Swish, swish,
Really?
swish,
Wow.
swish. About the 10th one, the crowd starts quieting down. Swish, swish, swish. Rupp senses that something's happening. He turns around and here's this guy. Toom, toom, toom. After he hit his 25th or whatever it was, Rupp turned to him at the microphone and said, "Son, have you ever seen the
I was
bluegrass?"
just going to ask.
Have you ever seen the what?
The bluegrass.
Oh, Kentucky.
Oh, I have to tell you this story then. When Rick Roby, do you remember Rick Roby? He played for the University of Kentucky, and he played for the Celtics. He said when his rookie season with the Celtics, he had to take a pay cut.
Well, and Lou Saropoulos, the Greek guy from Lynn, played for Kentucky as well.
is that
played for
right?
Rupp, yeah. But of course, Perry went on to
Holy Cross.
Oh,
Holy
yeah.
Cross.
That's then his
And
son.
Catholic Memorial, where I went, he was the.
he the AD?
I knew his son, Ronnie. Was
Yeah.
a very
Who
good
was
basketball
terrific,
player
yeah.
too.
But
Terrific guy.
I want to tell you, and they were great supporters of mine politically.
Were they?
Ronnie,
A nicer
Ronnie and
family
his-
you won't meet.
Yeah, Ronnie and his wife were just terrific.
Yeah, he played for Holy Cross, right?
Yeah.
Junior, right?
Yeah.
A nicer guy you will not meet.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Right.
But I'll
Perry
never
Jr.
forget, son.
I love that. I love
I
that.
just lost him.
But that was at the arena.
Wow.
Yeah.
Governor, I think you were in office when all of the MDC rinks sprouted up and sort of the
Well,
aftermath.
it preceded me. I was in the legislature.
You were in the legislature,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
aftermath of really the Orr Bruins, right? Was that hockey craze was behind the sprouting up of all those rinks?
And by the way, Orr was a great supporter of mine.
He was.
as well, politically, yeah.
Yeah.
And
My favorite athlete of all time.
wonderful,
Mine too.
and a wonderful human being.
Isn't he?
you know.
He's
Oh,
the best ever.
he's the best.
Oh my God.
He's
yeah.
yeah.
He was at the Brookline Booksmith when he had, and
Yeah.
I wanted to meet him. I never met him,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
bought 15 books. So I knew that I was going to spend a lot of time with him while he signed the books. I'm like, write slowly. I'm spending my time with Bobby
You know,
Orr.
but a lovely
Just
man.
probably one of the most genuine athletes
Yeah.
ever, right?
Not only an athlete, a human being.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, it's hard to
the
believe a guy of that stature just walks through the community like just Joe Regular. That would be like Michael Jordan walking around. I mean, he's such a regular, down-to-earth guy.
That's what makes
It's
him
hard to
special,
believe.
yeah.
Great guy.
All right, so first of all, we have to talk. I didn't think anyone ever left Brookline or sold their house. I didn't know. But Tom Brady, I don't know, maybe you've heard of him. So he just put up his house for sale for $40 million. I don't know if you guys are going to buy that.
No, well, you know, we have a little condo in Los Angeles, which we rent out when we're not there.
Okay.
And we're making money on the deal.
Oh, good.
So,
But he and his wife built this place in L.A.
Oh, they did.
they
Oh,
never
yeah.
occupied it.
They never occupied it, and it looked like a community college, honestly.
really
They
did.
sold it to a rapper.
Oh, they did?
And,
Yeah.
and they built a thing out in the kind of the hills.
Brentwood.
Mm-hmm.
And in Brentwood. Never occupied it, and just sold it and made, what, another 10 or 15 million bucks? I don't know what it was.
I don't think he's going to make money on this one. He's got it priced $1.5 million higher than Fireman's house, which is twice the size and right around the corner.
This is the Brookline one.
Yeah.
So he.
And
since
we,
sorry,
and we thought we were doing him a favor by opposing what I thought was his crazy idea of putting an elementary school at Pine Manor, you know?
right. Well, they were thinking about buying. Are they still thinking about buying that land?
No, it'd be crazy. Can you imagine? You'd put an elementary school on Heath Street.
No, yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't.
You know, that's the center of the population of the town, right?
And they already spent all this money converting devotion, right?
Yeah,
And they're
$100
building-
million bucks. Folks, don't get me started on construction costs these days. I
So-
mean, I'm going to connect North and South Station by rail up to the last thing I do.
hope
But
you do.
I watched your video on that on the ride here,
Did you?
by the way.
Yeah.
I should have been paying attention to the road, but
yeah, well, be careful.
All right, so we win another Super Bowl since we last saw you.
Right.
What can you say about Tom Brady? Is he the greatest? Well, as far as how do you compare? Would you compare him to Bill Russell? Try to compare him for us because I never saw
Well,
Bill
Russell
Russell
was a
play.
different guy, you know.
But as far as success and
Yeah,
championships,
but and it's no, not certainly a knock on Brady, but Russell was, you know, for a lot of obvious reasons, pretty extraordinary. And I've just read a wonderful book about Cousy and Russell. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah, I just
I've
read-
read
yeah.
excerpts
If
of
you
it.
haven't read it,
yeah,
read it.
Fascinating
I read
book,
it.
yeah.
You
We're
know,
gonna have him on that
their
the author.
relationship and so
Right, yeah.
forth.
And Cousy felt very bad.
Yes, he
about,
did. He did.
not-
But he talks about what happened when Russell came to play. And this, you know, big guy at the time, you know,
Sure.
what was Russell, 6'9", 6'10",
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
it was. Cousy would get the ball, you know, after a rebound or whatever, and start bringing it up the court. And there'd be this 6'9" or 10" guy pounding right by him
Right.
right, I know, right?
and under the basket for a pass
Yeah.
from way down
He was used to going on and hanging around waiting for the guys to get down.
It was incredible.
But defensively, he was
Yeah,
extraordinary.
and read the book. It's a
I will.
It's
Yeah.
really a wonderful book. About these two guys and.
There's a lot to that story.
And frankly, I didn't know that much about Cousy. I didn't realize his parents were French, and he was fluent in French.
Right.
He grew up in New York, but his parents were French,
Yeah.
And he grew up bilingual in French.
Yeah.
And his mother was very strict and
Tough.
angry and
Tough.
mean to the
Tough.
father.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
book does not portray the
No,
mother
and-
very well.
And here's this guy that comes out of this background.
Yeah.
Parents were immigrants. In fact, I think they married in Europe and then came here.
Right.
And becomes Bob Cousy,
Yeah,
Becomes,
it's a remarkable story on its own.
But read the book.
Yeah, we
all of us, all the folks watching, you have a chance, get that book on Cousy.
Mm.
I had a greater impact on me than almost anything I've read in the last year or two.
Really?
It's really interesting, yeah.
I've always wanted to ask this question about Bill Belichick. Is he just that much smarter than all the people that he competes against? I mean, have you ever seen that in the political world or the business world? Such, Bill Belichick is here and
Not-
everybody's down here.
Certainly not in the political world, right? For a lot of obvious reasons. And he keeps doing it.
Right, over this
Year
long.
after year.
My
after
question
year.
is, does he do it without Brady?
Yeah, great question.
Or is it a
What do you-
symbiotic relationship?
What do you think?
I don't think he does it without a guy like Brady. A guy like Brady, not Tom Brady necessarily. Could he have done it with a Joe Montana or a Ben Roethlisberger maybe? He needed a top shelf guy, and also who would take the salary cuts and things like that.
Yeah, no.
There was a lot that Brady brought that enabled Belichick's plan to succeed.
How does a guy like that stay motivated? How do people who are so successful over a long period of
I mean,
time, how do they remain
A lot
motivated?
like Belichick?
Yeah, and Belichick and Brady. I mean,
I
you've
don't
seen
know.
it.
You guys are motivated to do things. I
Sure.
mean, I've never lost my love for politics.
Right.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So you've
Service,
always
He
loved
loves
it.
it.
You've
Yeah.
always stayed
And
motivated.
now I have an opportunity, half of the last 25 or 30 years at Northeastern and at UCLA, to teach kids and try to encourage them to go into public service. 2 of my UCLA kids are now in Congress,
Oh, that's phenomenal.
both Mexican-American.
That's great.
One child in a family of 11,
Yeah.
and the other guy's parents and his 4 older siblings came here illegally in the
Really?
70s.
And now he's
Got amnesty under the Reagan amnesty bill that nobody talks about. Reagan was really quite good on immigration policy. And Jimmy Gomez arrived in my public policy course from Riverside Community College. His mother's still cleaning houses in Riverside.
Is that right?
Yeah. And there was something about this kid. And I kind of sat him down and I said, "Are you involved at all politically?" He said,
Yeah.
"No." I said, "Are you interested?" "Yeah, I'm kind of interested." He's now in Congress.
Governor, are there natural talents in politics like that? What about that did you see, or was
Well,
it
yes,
just
sir. In his case, a very bright, interested Mexican-American kid who graduated from high school and I don't think had any intention of going on in politics. Was working at Target or someplace in Riverside, whose mayor, by the way, is another former student of mine. And a terrific
that
guy.
right?
Yeah. And Rusty Bailey, just a terrific kid. Anyway, he's no kid. Anyway, somebody suggested he go take a course at Riverside Community College. And he got a B. And people said, "Well, do you want to come here?" So he comes to community college, transfers to UCLA. I get him, graduates with honors, comes to the Kennedy School at Harvard and gets a master's in public policy, goes back out there, works for the unions for a while, then decides to run for the assembly from East LA. Wins, serves 3 terms, and then in this special election, which was held to fill the seat that Javier Becerra vacated when he became Attorney General in Congress, there must have been 13 candidates. Jimmy wins the primary and wins the final by 20 percentage points,
great.
and he's now in Congress. And he was on CNN.
That's great.
All right, so we can't. Of course, we have to talk politics with you. We've done with the sports stuff. My first question is it good for the Democrats that they have 20 candidates who are currently running for president who are debating on
Yes,
television?
but not doing what they did in that second debate. I mean, it's a serious mistake, particularly in a multi-headed primary, to start attacking your rivals.
but it's only natural because they want to stand out,
No,
right?
no, but the way you stand out is to do what I think Elizabeth is doing, which is not going after other people. She's kind of out there. I mean, she's got a plan for everything, to be sure. But she's gaining,
Right.
and the other folks, the attackers, they'll never win.
So is it DNC Chairman Tom Perez's job to take these guys aside and say, yeah, you don't have a chance. It's time
Yeah,
for you to get out.
and I have a great respect for Perez. Want me to tell you my Perez story?
I would love that.
Love story.
He was at Harvard Law School. Parents were Dominicans, but a Dominican. Came from the Dominican Republic. His father was a doctor. And they settled in Buffalo, and he grew up in Buffalo. And he's at Harvard Law School, and he's going with a girl from Brookline.
Was that right?
And they run out of groceries, and they go over to the Stop and Shop on Harvard Street. And he sees me, the governor, walking around buying my groceries. No,
Yes.
no security, no cops,
Right.
none of this kind of stuff. But Kitty could never figure it out. Why does it take you so long, to...
Everyone wants to talk
to
to
shop.
them.
Everybody wants to talk to me.
I want a stop sign.
Anyway, and Perez is this kid at Harvard Law School, and he can't believe this. The governor of the Commonwealth is walking around by himself buying his groceries. Now, I do go to Stop and Shop from time to time, but we're big Costco fans.
There you go.
We see you
Of
at
course
Stop and
you
Shop.
are.
We've seen you.
Yeah, but once every 3 weeks we go to Costco.
Yeah.
And, save a lot of
Stock
money.
up.
Oh yeah,
And the quality of this stuff is. I mean, ask Kitty.
Chickens.
big Costco.
Ask Kitty about their cherries.
Is that right? Yeah,
the
I-
prime
I-
steaks.
Yeah, when after the show.
They're all perfect. Anyway, but he couldn't get over it. Here's the governor walking around talking to people, doing his, pushing his car and so on. And years later, he told me, he said, I'd never gotten over it. In fact, by the way, he was a terrific Secretary of Labor.
He was.
Great. Oh yeah.
So in 3 years ago, we talked to you about the upcoming election, and you said you called it in the sense that you said it's all about the 50 states, the mechanics of getting out the
200,000
vote.
precincts.
200,000 precincts getting out the vote, and clearly the Democrats did not take that lesson.
Not in 2016.
Not in 2016.
But they certainly did in 2018.
That's exactly right.
I mean, Trump got creamed in 2018.
Absolutely, yeah.
I
He
mean,
won't admit it, but yeah.
No, 43 seats.
Yeah,
Right?
I know, right?
Now, the question is, are we going to do it again?
right.
And that means a 50-state, 200,000 precinct campaign. No fooling around. I want to hear about reds, blues, purples, and all this kind of stuff.
Exactly right.
Because, if you basically concede half the country, you're going to lose.
That's right. Yeah.
And
Because
there's
you
no
feel like
reason for that.
Texas might be possible.
Texas is already 60% African American and Latino.
Yeah. No reason to lose
It's a
Michigan.
red state. What is this?
Yeah.
But the work wasn't done.
The work wasn't done.
Sure wasn't done in Wisconsin, was
Honestly,
it?
you were the first person I thought of when people traced it back to Wisconsin and Michigan in the last 3 weeks, and they didn't make a
But
visit.
Texas is in play. Georgia is in play. Florida is almost certainly in play. I mean, there's and what you don't want to do, if you basically say, well, half the country is red, so we're not going to participate. What do? First, you give the other side a free pass, right?
Yeah, right.
And they then can take everybody in the half you've conceded and pour them into the Michigans and Wisconsins and Pennsylvanias. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And you reinforce that you don't care about those
Yeah,
people.
yeah. They're, whatever. I mean, I carried West Virginia by 12 percentage points. When did it become red? When we kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
Now, special problems. They're a cold state.
Can
coal
I
is
jump
gone.
in?
Yeah.
Buttigieg, what do you think of his changes?
I like him.
I like him a lot.
I don't think he's going to win this thing. If I were running and won, I'd make that guy my HUD secretary or somebody. And he's got a very interesting story about his being at Harvard.
Yes. Yeah.
I
I
mean-
read the Globe covered that a couple months ago.
Interesting story. He had this tightly knit group of folks who were very political,
Yeah.
and half of them were working for him in the campaign.
Yeah.
And the night before they graduated,
Oh, I
or
didn't
the
hear
day
the
before they
story.
graduated, they drove all the way to Bar Harbor in Acadia National Park and hiked all day long. And he and one of the other guys drove all the way back, and they got back to Cambridge at about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning and graduated.
That's great.
I mean, interesting. But they had this group that met at a Chinese restaurant in Harvard Square
The Hong Kong.
and would talk politics.
like once a week or something.
Yeah, and they called them. They had a name for themselves. I forget what it was.
Yeah, I can't remember the name either. Yeah.
Interesting, but he's a very bright guy. You know, he does have a problem. It's not of his making, but if you're in office as a mayor or governor, whatever, what happens?
Yeah.
While you're in office,
Yeah,
Especially mayor.
That's a big test that he's going through right now.
Crap that hits the
And
fan
governor.
there.
and governor.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
you know, you never know what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
It's a test. It's a big test right now.
yeah,
What he's going
because you're
through.
running, presumably, because you've done a reasonably good job in office.
Yeah.
But if something goes wrong, and you're out,
Remind me who your lieutenant governor was when you ran in '88.
O'Neill?
Evelyn Murphy.
Evelyn Murphy. That's
Evelyn
right.
Murphy. That's right.
Yeah, remember it was Tommy first,
Right.
Yeah.
and then
Tommy-
John, and then
Tom
John
O'Neill.
Yeah.
Tommy O'Neill, and then John Kerry, and then
Yeah,
Evelyn.
and then Evelyn Murphy.
Okay, so in 1988, you defeated Joe Biden, this guy named Joe Biden. I don't know if you've heard of him. And in
well, not
2019,
Joe Biden, but Al Gore and Jesse
Babbitt?
Jackson,
A lot
and
of-
Bruce
yeah.
Babbitt, and a lot of other
Yeah.
folks.
but
you know,
he's
I'll
the
t-
only one running right now for president.
Right. But I will tell you this: we worked very hard to keep it positive.
Right.
There was very little back and
There
forth
wasn't
there.
much,
And
yeah.
I was just determined, and I kept saying to my folks, I don't want to hear this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, let's keep it positive. Let's run a strong campaign in a positive way. You know, now how do you do this? Well, you know, I'm no expert in winning the final. I'm pretty good at primary.
Governor.
But there were, what, 8 of us to start, and then Gary Hart
That's right, he
dropped out,
dropped
and then
out.
came back, and all this kind of stuff. But by and large, we kept it really quite positive. So I came out of that looking and feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And, you know, made some obvious mistakes in the final. And my advice to the candidates would be keep it positive.
Right.
I mean, I mentioned Elizabeth. She's kept it positive. And I think going after one of your competitors, especially the guy who is at least nominally the
Right.
front runner, I mean, you got to watch the stuff. It's much too early, and who knows what's going to happen. It's just a big mistake. I don't think either one of the folks that went on the attack, I think they've already essentially forfeited their chance to win.
Now, what do you do when they're just throwing mud at you? Do you? It must be
Well,
hard to
you
just sit
don't
there
give
and
them
keep
an
it positive.
You don't give them an excuse to do it by responding in kind. Now, did I make a mistake in deciding I would not respond to the Bush attack campaign? Yeah, it was a terrible mistake. I mean, when you get into the final, if the other guy's coming at you, and needless to say, this guy, you know, now how do you handle Trump? Well,
That's a great question.
if it's Elizabeth, I think she ought to start calling him Pinocchio.
Yeah.
You know?
She's not afraid,
I mean,
is
no,
she?
No, but I mean,
Pinocchio.
this Pocahontas thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call him Pinocchio. I mean, he's a pathological liar, obviously. And think of the possibilities. Hey, the nose is getting longer and longer.
You should be honest.
Get a skilled cartoonist to turn him into Pinocchio.
yeah.
You know, with
Have a field day.
with a hat and the lederhosen and all that kind of stuff and the short pants. Don't you think? Wouldn't that be?
Fight fire with
I
fire,
think
right?
that's
only
the
that,
best.
we
The
need a
best
little-
thing I've heard.
We need a little humor here. Don't you
Absolutely.
think?
Yeah, right.
You got to turn it back on him, like something like that.
Yeah.
You got to show you can take it,
Yeah.
right?
I'm not a big fan of hers, but that's a good. That's
Look,
a good
I mean,
rebuttal.
I don't care who it is. I mean,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You know, anybody. Call him Pinocchio. You know,
Fire
call
with
him-
fire.
Call him Pinocchio.
Yeah.
You know.
He loves to slap nicknames on
Yeah,
people.
have him. Yeah, he's a great nickname guy. So give him a nickname.
Do you think he's intimidated by Biden?
By Biden?
Trump is? Or at the very least won't try to play as many games with Biden that he would in another candidate?
Trump's a complicated fellow. Let me put it mildly.
Yeah,
I was
that's
wondering
good.
what was going to come out there because
Look,
you choose your words carefully.
Anybody who looks at you and says he's a stable genius is mentally ill.
Yeah,
No, I'm
right.
serious.
I know
I'm
you're
serious. There's
right.
something. I'm sorry. There's something wrong with somebody who says I'm a genius. A stable genius, whatever that is.
Whatever that is.
I mean, he's a classic narcissistic personality. You know, he can't tell the truth if his life depends on it. But I do think you got to have some fun with him, because I think somebody
Yeah.
said the other day that they had never seen him smile.
Yeah,
Is that right?
It's an effect.
That he can't even tell a joke.
No.
It's kind of interesting.
What-
Think about it.
so what you're
No-
sugge-
no sense of humor.
Right.
Yeah.
So bringing
Yeah.
a sense of humor into it, it's a great.
Yeah.
It's actually to
Yeah.
Timmy's point.
Have people show up at his
Right.
rallies looking like Pinocchio.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right. Well,
Right.
they have the big balloon.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
The
have
baby
some,
balloon.
have some fun with
Well,
it.
Absolutely, yeah.
it's a sense of humor as comedy,
Yeah.
a little bit of comedy as a campaign strategy,
Now,
which actually makes
this
a lot of
is
sense.
not an original idea with me. The year after I lost, Jim Florio, who was a very good congressman for New Jersey,
Right.
ran for governor. And his opponent, who was a conservative Republican congressman, also from New Jersey, hired the entire Bush media team. I think Roger Ailes was in it and all kinds of these folks, okay? The ones that had beaten me.
Atwater.
I think Atwater was part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And when asked, when he announced, Florio said, they're not going to do to me what they did to Dukakis. Okay. Now, he was from Camden, a very straight, honest guy. But the Camden County Democratic machine was not
Right.
setting records for integrity. And he knew that they'd probably come at him, arguing that he was part of that corrupt machine.
Right.
So what happens? The first attack ad by this guy Corder goes after him, arguing that he's part of this corrupt machine. Back comes a response with Corder as Pinocchio. You know, the hat, the later hood, and a nose that expands with a noise every time.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Every time
this.
Corder ran another attack ad, back comes Corder's Pinocchio.
You know, if this really comes to fruition, this show is going to go down in history.
Yeah, right.
Florio won by 26%.
Wow.
Killed him. With what? And everybody knows who Pinocchio is, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think, I don't know if she's going to do it, but I think she
I
or
love
anyone,
it.
I don't care who it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a fun way to,
Fire with fire.
and fight it with fire and humor.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, because
Yeah.
something has to resonate in these.
Yeah.
The red counties. They voted to blow the system up. They voted against their economic best interests.
Yeah, except in many cases, they voted for Obama. So how do you explain that? Okay.
But Obama was a change candidate.
Yes,
as
he
well.
was. Yes, he was.
Right.
And,
You know,
an impressive guy.
I have to go to these factories in the Midwest, and most of these towns I go through, they're all boarded up, and
Yeah.
there's a
Oh,
2-mile
yeah.
long factory next to it, in a boarded up town,
Yeah.
and the only thing in business are the strip joints and the churches.
Yeah.
And I think these were desperate people, just
Yeah.
out of desperation.
That's right.
They
And-
said,
and
we
you know,
need something
change."
completely different.
Well, or whatever. They were just frustrated.
Yeah.
And a lot of their kids who did well in school went on
They
and left.
they left.
I don't know how many
Yeah.
folks in Iowa said to me, my kid lives in Boston. He tells me you're a good guy.
Wow.
These are all very bright kids
Yeah.
who grew up in Iowa and were now
There's
You know,
nothing there.
biotech folks.
You know.
No,
Yeah.
Iowa's a little different because it's got some interesting
Sure.
stuff going. But when you know if you've been out there, I mean, these are dead communities.
Dead.
You know. And by the way, when I first got elected in the mid '70s, unemployment in these old mill cities was in the 20s.
It was just starting.
Oh God! And then we just started in Lowell and a few other places. And these days, I can't believe it myself, folks. You guys been to Worcester?
Yeah.
Lately?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Recently.
Look at the building, the new
I
stadium.
remember, not only the ball team.
Yeah.
I remember standing in a field next to the old state mental hospital, surplus state land with grass up to my armpits, and Jerry D'Amico, the state senator, next to me on the hottest day in August, saying, this was when I came back and beat King the second time, saying, if I get elected, we're going to do a biotech park in Worcester. What? Biotech? Worcester? But the state medical schools in Worcester. Today, Kitty and I went out to kind of a celebration of what's happened out there. And people were very nice and all that kind of stuff. I mean, Worcester is flying.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's just remarkable. Now, why hasn't that happened in the Midwest? Well, because we happen to have 120 colleges and universities, including
That's a great
a couple
point.
named MIT and Harvard.
Right.
And you can't export that to the Philippines or Malaysia, or, you know.
I mean, Kendall Square is Kendall Square, and there's a reason it's there. Now, of course,
Yeah.
they're getting kind of landlocked,
Yeah.
and they're looking for a second city. And somebody suggested Manchester, New Hampshire, in the paper. Look, Manchester's got a big Greek community, so I have to.
You got to take care of it.
But when you got a Worcester or a Lowell or one of
Sure.
these places that we've been able to bring back,
And Worcester's got some nice colleges out there, too.
they are a very important part of this revival.
Right.
It's not just the medical school, but it's
Sure.
that and 7 other colleges and
Yeah,
universities.
sure, yeah.
Sure.
And they're good ones.
There's a lot of brains out
Plus
there.
and so on and so forth. Yeah. So how you bring those communities back in the Midwest that you're talking about is pretty tough. And let me tell you something. This Trump trade policy is crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Because, he says a trade war is easy. So what did the Chinese do the other day?
Drop the,
They devalued their
they dropped
currency.
their currency.
And totally nullified.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And
Didn't he know that
And
would
dropped
happen?
us
What
the
about the
rates to
people
the
around
bottom.
him?
They-
It's
they'll
crazy.
bottom.
Print
They
more
don't
money.
care. Right.
And let me tell you, businesses are really getting hurt. Seriously. We've got a friend who's in the cranberry business. They're getting wiped out. Why? Because of retaliatory tariffs imposed by the Chinese
Right.
as a result of this thing. Now, we're both members of the World Trade Organization. In fact, we helped China to get into it. And it's got a set of rules. So work, go to work, and within that framework, this is just madness. And now they're talking about moving intermediate nuclear-armed missiles into the Far East. I mean, what is this?
Have you ever been so frustrated about the national political scene as you have right now?
Yeah, once. When a guy named Joe McCarthy was running around.
Right, okay.
And I've told you about my McCarthy story, haven't I?
No.
No, you have not.
Well, you guys, you're young, but you all know who Joe McCarthy
course
is,
we
what was
do,
going
yeah.
on, and the hysteria and the anti-communist stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm this Greek kid from Boston
Sure.
who goes down to a Quaker school outside of Philadelphia called Swarthmore College. I'd never heard of it. I get down there. By the way, this is back when America was great. And the first thing I and my fellow freshmen discover is that the barber shops in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, 9 miles from Philadelphia, won't cut the hair of black kids in Swarthmore.
Yeah.
Hello. So we decided to boycott the barber shops. I've told you this, haven't I?
And you cut hair.
And I became the
Right,
first
yeah,
barber.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I got pretty active politically.
Yeah.
I was no fan of Joe McCarthy, needless to say. And I had a wonderful basketball coach at Brookline High School named Johnny Grinnell, who was Kitty's homeroom teacher. Who was my
Keeps
basketball
going back to
coach.
Of course.
this
A
kitty
wonderful,
dress.
wonderful guy, who hated McCarthy.
Yeah.
And he lived in Newton, so he would drive a couple of us who lived out in the southern part of town and drop us off at Hammond Street, and we'd hitchhike home after basketball practices.
Yeah.
And we'd talk politics. He was the first person to say to me, someday you should run for political office.
Wow.
That was Johnny.
Wow.
I just
And I
have
was
to take
16.
a break for 1 second.
16 to 17, I was 16 to 17, years
Yeah.
of age at the time. But to have Johnny Grinnell say to me, you ought to run for political office.
That's amazing.
Was pretty something.
He just saw your.
Well,
your-
I don't know. He was
something.
a wonderful guy. And when Kitty and I connected and he found that the two of us were together, he was, he loved her and was a big fan of mine and just, was a wonderful guy. Anyway, so I go to Swarthmore. I'm active politically. Graduate in 55. And 6 weeks later, I'm being sworn into the United States Army at the Fargo building. And with a motley group of about 30, get on a train to head for Fort Dix, New Jersey. And 3 days after we get there, we have what passes for a personnel interview,
Yeah.
which is another draftee who's a personnel specialist who interviews you for 5 minutes
Right.
and then decides what you're going to do for the next 2 years. Except
wow.
my guy had a file on me. And this is in pre-computer America.
Really?
Yeah, a manila file with every single political activity I've ever engaged in.
Oh, my
Swarthmore
Lord.
College. And the interview goes something like this. So I see you ran a fundraising drive for the American Civil Liberties Union while you were at Swarthmore. I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. And you were the chairman of the Students for Democratic Action, which was the student wing of the ADA, the Liberal Democratic Organization. But they were succeeded in that capacity by a guy named Carl Levin.
Of
Who
course.
subsequently
Michigan,
became
right?
chairman of the Armed Services
Yeah.
Committee and was in Congress for 18 years,
Yeah.
in the Senate. And, you know, I'm getting a little concerned because at that time, if you were drafted, or for that matter, went in, and they found out that you were a member of some subversive, I mean, there was all kinds of phrases of these things, you could be discharged other than honorably.
Wow.
Seriously, okay? And I don't know that was in the back of my head, but being
You were
discharged-
freaking out when he
being
started asking the
discharged
questions,
other than
eh?
honorably was not exactly the best way to start a political
Of
career.
course, right.
Okay, anyway, fortunately, he didn't recommend another honorable discharge and sent me to Korea, which is okay. It's an interesting experience. It took us 10 years to find out how the Pentagon got that information. What do you think?
How?
What do you think?
Somebody at Swarthmore.
In those days, you didn't have individual telephones. In order to make a call, you had to use the
Yeah.
pay phone in
Yeah.
the dormitory, and you went through the switchboard.
Yeah.
They were paying somebody to listen. They had a
Somebody
tap on
ratted you out at-
they had a tap on the Swarthmore switchboard,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
and they were paying somebody. God knows how many other colleges they had taps on. But the FBI had a tap on the Swarthmore switchboard, and were paying somebody to take notes about guys like me.
Creating files.
So that was a McCarthy file that they had.
Well,
on
it was it
whatever.
was part of
It
the
was part of
whole,
the whole
you know,
apparatus.
J. Edgar Hoover and all
Sure,
this
right.
hysteria, right?
Wow.
Think about it. Think about it.
That's incredible.
So illegal.
So the moment there was technology, they figured out how to
course,
start
that's how it's
spying
done,
on
right?
people. Yeah.
Their own
Wow.
citizens.
Interesting.
It's
yeah.
the worst thing.
So George Bush dies since we last saw you.
Right.
What are your thoughts on George Bush?
Well, I was asked about, I got 75,000 calls on it, and I finally said I'd issue a statement. Look, I wasn't a huge fan of the guy in terms of his domestic stuff. It's the reason he got defeated. He wasn't a very good domestic president. But I did say this, and I meant it. He and Gorbachev did something that was extraordinary.
Right.
They ended the Cold War. And one of the things that's driving me nuts these days is that this guy and the people around him apparently are determined to revive the Cold War for reasons I don't understand. I just don't
Economic
understand.
reasons? I mean,
I
to
know,
get
what is it?
to the money getting poured back into the military?
Okay, so China's not a democracy. Maybe 75 years from now it will be, right?
75 years. Yeah, that's
But
about
when
that.
did China become the enemy? I'm trying to figure this out. And look, I'm old enough to remember Mao Zedong.
Wow.
I'll take the current Chinese leadership
Yeah, in a
anytime.
minute.
Right.
you know?
Great point. Yeah.
You know, even Putin, who really is troubling in many ways. I mean, whatever. But compared to Joe Stalin, I mean, I'm sorry,
course.
you know. But this China thing, what is this? I mean, we both have a problem. We're producing a lot of greenhouse gases, both countries, and we ought to be working hard on it.
Yeah.
What is this
Well,
proposal to introduce intermediate ballistic missiles into the?
I
what's
think
going
that
on
I
here?
think a Bush called it right, amazingly, and he didn't call many things, but Jeb Bush called Donald Trump the chaos president.
Well,
and boy,
but-
I tell you,
But Bush one did something pretty extraordinary in sitting down with Gorbachev and ending the Cold
Sure.
War. And I'll be darned if we're going to sit around reviving it for reasons I don't
Do you
understand.
think
Do you
that-
guys know what we're spending on the military these days?
not
In peacetime? At least $750 billion we
Wow.
know about.
Wow. So
How
close
many
to a
American bases do you think we have in how many foreign countries? 837 American bases in 150 countries. What is
trillion.
this?
So why do we need
Do you
to be in
think
all this?
that Trump sees China as the reason for all these boarded up Midwestern towns?
Yeah, I think he does. Unfortunately, it's automation more than China
Yeah, right.
that's producing this. Why are we doing so well? Well, we're into the high tech, biotech, all this kind of stuff. That's not what these older industrial towns in the Midwest are all about.
Well, that's what we saw with
Yeah.
Lowell and Lawrence. They
Yeah,
were mill
yeah,
factories
yeah,
in the World War II, and it took them a long time to finally make
But
the
I will say
adjustment.
this to you. I don't understand why our candidates aren't talking about regional economic development. There was a guy named Kennedy once, remember?
Yeah.
He got elected. He was powerfully influenced by his campaigning in Appalachia, right?
Yeah.
And he created the Appalachian Regional Commission and went to work to revive the economy of,
Sure.
what, West Virginia, Kentucky, Western Pennsylvania,
Same
and so
places
forth.
that are struggling now.
Why aren't we, why aren't we
Right.
doing this? I don't
I don't-
understand it.
I don't know.
Why aren't our candidates doing it?
Yeah.
You know, instead of arguing with each other
Well-
over, you know, what variation of a healthcare system we
Who
want.
could-
They're
who
all for
could-
universal care. I mean, it's a question of, but I mean, we should be into this stuff.
Yeah.
But Trump just doesn't understand this. And trade wars, he says, are easy. Yeah, easy.
They just devalue their dollar.
I mean,
That just
You know,
eliminated everything he just did.
I'm a great student, a great believer in history. The Greeks have an old saying, pathema, mathema, rhymes. Things happen, you're supposed to learn from them. That's why we study history, right? So in 1931, to try to save the country from the Depression, we passed something called the Smoot-Hawley Act. Raised tariffs, which is a tax on Americans, right? A tariff is not a tax on the Chinese, it's a tax on the Americans. Raised tariffs and almost destroyed the country
Right.
economically. And from that point on, we kind of decided maybe that wasn't a sensible thing to do. This guy's back, and he loves tariffs. And he's talking about how much money is pouring in. Businesses are now being hurt and getting killed as a result of this trade policy. And it's just absolutely crazy in my judgment.
Well,
We
the
run out-
hour's
have we
gone.
run out of
Yeah.
time?
You
That
know,
was great.
I could
Can
sit
we
here
stay
forever.
for 2 more?
Yeah, we
I
can
know.
stay. They were just
got
they
a
won't be
lot-
on
we got a lot
TV.
to talk about.
Yeah, we do for sure.
Anyway.
Well, of course, we want to thank Governor Michael Dukakis for being on our show, the 5th annual show. Want to thank the boys. Want to thank everyone behind the scenes. Please check us out on our website at thegrandstanders.com and tune in on Friday night live at 9 o'clock, coming to you from the greatest bar in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm your host, Scott Kerman. Have a great and happy night.